Pearl Cleage's debut novel, What Looks Like Crazy on an Ordinary Day, 1997, propelled her to stardom and earned the prestigious distinction of being selected for Oprah's Book Club in 1998. The book remained on the New York Times bestseller list for a remarkable 9 weeks. Within the literary realm, it falls under the genres of women's fiction and contemporary African American fiction. The narrative centers around Ava Johnson, who relocates from her glamorous life in Atlanta to her hometown in Michigan for the summer after discovering she has contracted HIV. At its core, the novel delves into themes of love, family, responsibility, and the pursuit of happiness in the face of impending mortality. After running a successful salon in Atlanta, Ava receives a positive HIV diagnosis. Despite her sister Joyce's counsel to keep it a secret, Ava believes it is her moral obligation to inform all her past lovers from the last decade about their potential exposure. However, when the wife of one of these men confronts Ava publicly, her salon business crumbles, and she becomes a social outcast. Left with no choice, she decides to sell her house and business, planning to move to the West Coast in the fall. Before embarking on her new journey, she opts to spend the summer with her widowed sister in their hometown of Idlewild, Michigan. During her stay, she rekindles a connection with Eddie Jefferson, an old friend who may become a new love interest. Joyce, Ava's sister, is a dedicated social worker known for her problem-solving skills within the community. She runs a Sunday nursery at the church, which has evolved into the Sewing Circus, a support group for young women with children but no job prospects or future plans. This tight-knit group faces challenges when a new conservative pastor and his wife arrive, aiming to shift the church's focus toward traditional Christian education and outreach, potentially threatening the Sewing Circus. Joyce, on the other hand, has ambitious plans to educate young women about AIDS, safe sex, and other vital health topics. These plans, however, create a scandal in the eyes of the Reverend and his wife. Joyce enthusiastically recruits Ava to join her in challenging their conservative stance. Jerry Anderson remains resolute in her husband's mission, which primarily focuses on aiding young men in youth programs and preaching abstinence to young women. Unable to find common ground, Joyce and Ava step back from the political battle, contemplating their next steps. In the midst of their activities, Joyce and Ava take in an abandoned newborn crack baby, affectionately named Imani, Swahili for faith. Imani's mother vanished after leaving the hospital, and her family refuses to care for the child. Although Ava had never desired to have children of her own, Imani's presence prompts her to reconsider her decision to move away after the summer, realizing she would miss out on watching the girl grow. Jerry unexpectedly visits a Sewing Circus meeting and witnesses the young women learning how to use condoms properly. For most of these girls, it's their first encounter with condoms, so Joyce guides them through the process using jumbo hot dogs as props while emphasizing the importance of safe sex. Jerry intervenes and permanently shuts down the meeting. Joyce receives a condescending letter from the Reverend himself, banning her from using church facilities. Undeterred, she decides to relocate the Sewing Circus meetings to her home while seeking alternative accommodations. Meanwhile, Ava's secret is unveiled to the town when a gossip-prone pharmacist divulges her prescription information. Overwhelmed, she contemplates leaving town and seeks refuge at Eddie's place for a brief respite. During this time, Eddie opens up about his own past, including his service in Vietnam and how it deeply affected him. He explains his journey toward becoming a spiritual vegetarian, cultivating organic produce, baking his bread, and practicing Tai Chi, a transformation that took years to achieve. Following a disastrous movie date during which they watched violent films to gain insights into the troubled young men they know, Eddie shares a dark secret with Ava. He reveals that he had been incarcerated for killing a drug dealer and allowing his ex-wife, a prostitute, to overdose on cocaine. Meanwhile, Joyce is actively inciting a rebellion against the Reverend and Jerry, all the while planning her outreach center for young women. She begins by drafting a mission statement and outlining her goals. To house the center, she needs a suitable location, and Ava steps forward, offering to purchase a house with 3 acres of land for this purpose. Eddie volunteers to oversee the house's renovation due to his carpentry skills. However, complications arise when Jerry jeopardizes Joyce's funding by sending an inflammatory letter to the Commissioner for Youth Programs. Joyce heads to the Capitol to rectify the situation, leaving Ava alone with Imani. During her absence, two local troublemakers, Frank and Tyrone, the latter being Jerry's wayward grandson, vandalize Ava's home by throwing a beer bottle through the window. Ava and Joyce decide to press charges against them. In an attempt to resolve their differences, Ava and Joyce visit the Reverend and Jerry's residence, only to find the Reverend intoxicated. Jerry is away running errands, but Tyrone is home watching cartoons in his underwear. There are unsettling hints of potential abuse involving the Reverend and Tyrone, but he stops short of admitting anything and ultimately ejects Ava and Joyce from his home. Shortly thereafter, Imani'S aunt arrives with a social worker, seeking custody of the child. Jerry orchestrated this move as retaliation against Ava and Joyce. To make matters worse, by September, Ava begins experiencing the initial symptoms of AIDS and is aware that the disease will progress rapidly. Imani'S situation deteriorates, landing her in the hospital due to physical abuse. The outlook is grim until a woman from the Reverend's former church congregation steps forward, confirming suspicions of his predatory behavior. Ava seizes this information to blackmail Jerry into backing off, while the Reverend experiences a complete mental breakdown that necessitates institutionalization. The novel concludes with Ava and Eddie tying the knot, Imani on the path to recovery, and the sewing circus flourishing. As it is a popular selection for book clubs, the book includes a reading guide with discussion questions after the story concludes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.